Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we start with the salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
the United
States
States
of
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 America,
America
and
and
to
to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
which
stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
for all.
all.
Eileen, can we get a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Cook,
Here,
Mr. D'Andriano,
Here.
Mr. Rogan,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here,
Mr. Williams.
Here. Can I get a motion on the reports?
I'll make a motion to approve the code of compliance report for May, code enforcement report for April and May, the dog control officer report for May. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get a motion on the supervisor's report?
Make a motion to approve the supervisor's report for April 2020. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
aye,
aye,
Would somebody like to make a motion on the minutes?
I will make a motion that we approve the town board meeting minutes of May 13th, 2020. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
All right, and last but not least, summary of abstract.
I will make a motion to approve abstract number 10 dated May 29th, 2020 in the amount of $109,207.30. So moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. D'Andriano.
Okay, first item I have is the credit card policy. So we all got the copy of the draft, and then there was an updated version that went out earlier, a couple hours ago. I just want to read real quick what the purpose of this is. It's to establish the policy and procedures for the use of credit cards issued to employees of the town of Patterson for the purpose of conducting town business. These procedures are intended to accomplish the following: to ensure that procurement with credit cards is accomplished pursuant to all the policy and procedures established by the town board, local state law, to enhance productivity, significantly reduce paperwork, improve internal controls, reduce overall costs associated with approved purchases, to ensure appropriate internal controls are established within each department, procuring with credit cards so that they are used for authorized purpose only, and to ensure the town bears no legal liability from inappropriate use of credit cards. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I hope you had a chance to look at it. I did not have a chance. I looked through the original draft. I did not have a chance to look through the updated version. Was it just kind of cleaned up a little bit?
It was cleaned up, and the attorneys added one section in there. Section 2. Cards will be issued at the discretion of the town board. Card holder then becomes the responsible party to all supporting documentation related to all transit actions placed within that card. It's kind of a catch-all so that whoever we give the card to becomes responsible for the actions with the card.
Okay. The policy just covers issuing cards, how the cards can be used and not used, what they could be used for, spending limits, documentation, and then there's also an agreement that they sign. If they get issued a card, they will sign the agreement. So if everyone looked at it, we have a resolution here.
Okay, before you go there, Pete, if I could just jump in here, because I asked Trish to put this together and get it on the agenda, and I'll explain to you why. But I do have a couple of changes that I'd like the board to consider. Does everybody have it in front of them by any chance?
Yep.
yeah,
Okay, so first section under scope, it
Mhm.
says the town supervisor will make all decisions regarding the issuance of individual cards. I don't know that's necessarily appropriate, and would recommend the town board makes all decisions on issuance of the cards.
Okay. Agreed.
It also has a limit in there of $1,000. I'd like to increase that to $2,000.
Okay.
Okay.
Under policy, section 2, it says cards will be issued at the discretion of the supervisor. Again, I'd like to change that to town board.
What section is that, Rich?
Under policy, section 2.
Okay, thanks.
Policy section 2.
Okay,
All good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, under policy again, section 6, it says use of the cards for meals is limited to travel outside the town where at least one overnight stay will occur. Currently, the policy is that somebody will go and stay out of town and they will pay for the cost of meals and, any other ancillary expenses. They will submit a voucher for reimbursement. The town board will review the appropriateness of the reimbursement and make it. If they're using the credit card, we're not going to have a chance on reviewing those expenditures and whether they're appropriate or not. So I'm not so crazy with section 6.
Yeah, I understand. Because we have had instances where people put in for reimbursement of non-allowable expenses. In this case, now we would be having to go after the employee, not go after, but request compensation from the employee. And that just
Yep.
frustrates everything.
Correct.
So do you want to just eliminate item 6?
That would be my recommendation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because sometimes too, someone will, have a meal and then maybe have a beer with it, and then the beer is not covered, and just kind of gets.
Yeah. Okay.
So it just,
All right.
it maintains the current policy.
Mhm.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
And then the last change I have is on page 2, procedures, under number 3. It says all receipts related to the purchase need to be approved by the department head and forwarded to the finance department within 2 business days of the purchase. Well, it may not be possible, or I may make a purchase on a Friday afternoon and then try to get it in here within 2 days is, to me, not realistic. And I think that should be, instead of 2 days, 5 business days.
5 business days. Okay.
Fair.
Anybody else?
No
Hey,
problem.
Rich.
Yeah.
I imagine that our fiscal office would have the ability with the account information to be able to monitor and get automatic updates anytime a purchase is made on that card. So
Correct.
that would enable a cross-reference, to at least know if they see something that doesn't make sense, they'd have a quick heads up on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So, just by way of a little background and to answer one of Pete's questions, I wanted to wait till we were all together. I'm trying to get us up on Dropbox. Dropbox initially gave me a free account, which got us in the door. But in order to have a legitimate account with Dropbox, they will not set up any sort of account that's billable. They're insisting we have a credit card and that it gets billed automatically to the credit card. Well, I did that for the town for Zoom, and this month, my credit card bill, my personal credit card bill for the town is almost $1,900. And so Pete, I'm sorry, but I had to pull it in, and I've got to get this done. Then we can get the credit card. Then I'll get us up on Dropbox as quick as I can. And I know you really want to be there, and I want to get it there for you, but I couldn't have one more reoccurring charge on my credit card anymore.
That's a fair enough explanation. So I can mark off my additional item I was going to ask for then.
Okay, good.
Can I ask a question about the credit cards? Do we know how many we're going to keep?
How many people are going to have it?
No.
Yeah. How many cards will the town have?
I think we're probably going to have 2 cards to start. One will be in finance and one will be in my hands.
Okay.
So this won't be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Right. Before I lose my thought, do you think that it would be wise for us to put a, something in here that says, because I see it speaks to not having receipts and them being responsible for interest or late charges, but would we want to take that money back by docking their salary so that we don't have to wait for them so we don't get into a, hey, you owe us money. You shouldn't use the card for that.
Well, again, back to the point that was raised earlier, it's going to be a town account. So both finance and myself are going to be able to monitor that account. We'll be able to go up and see what the charges are.
Yeah.
So, we're going to have to be diligent in checking them monthly to make sure that we don't miss anything. We can do that.
Say, I'm just saying, like just being devil's advocate, if somebody takes the card and buys themselves a meal that they're not eligible for, do we want to charge them or give them a window of opportunity to reimburse us for the cost? And if it's not paid within a certain time frame, we can adjust the salary accordingly.
What do you recommend?
Are you talking to me or Don?
Oh, you.
Oh, I would recommend that we would have the ability, since Trish is going to be holding the card, that maybe, rather than trying to chase someone for example, when I have someone who owes a day of pay, I make sure I let payroll know before the check is cut so that it's, there's no back and forth getting into, hey, I don't have the money this week, or I mean, it would probably be something that we never had to do but if it happened, it could keep the situation, at bay, rather than to have to what are you going to give them a bill?
Don, can we add something in this policy that says any unauthorized or inappropriate charges to the credit card will be automatically deducted from any pay due?
I like the practicality of it, because obviously it avoids a lot of headaches in the collection process, but I just can't speak comfortably that we could do it, Mary, without, basically sit as the judge and jury. And,
Okay.
so I just would want to check on it. It's whenever I hear that another municipal or county department is doing something like this, I have a knee-jerk reaction that someone's probably looked into it and confirmed that it's appropriate, but I definitely would want to check on it.
Okay.
Trish may have some, direct knowledge about it, but it strikes me as we might be taking a step without appropriate due process rights for the employee to have a chance to object. And I hear you. I think the way you explained it makes a lot of sense. A letter or a memo goes out questioning the legitimacy of a charge, and it says if you do not explain it or reimburse the town, then your salary will be docked. Gives the opportunity to make an argument, but in effect, we're making a decision that it's inappropriate. And to just take the step of docking someone for it, I would want to be comfortable with. Yeah,
Okay.
so you could consider it as part of this policy, maybe leave it for discussion on that one point, or adopt it with the, subject to confirmation of the legality of the step.
So
Subsequent.
let's adopt the policy as is.
Yeah.
Go back and do the research, and
Yep.
we can always amend the policy at the next meeting.
Right.
And you can report back to us at the next meeting on the legality and any specific text that we need to add in here.
But if we have more flexibility so as to allow that process, as opposed to if it was a local law and we had to get into publication and things like that. So I
Okay.
think that's a good way to go.
All right.
Okay.
Everybody agree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so with that said, I'd like to introduce the resolution for acceptance of the credit card policy, to make a motion to approve it and enter it to the minutes as read, with all the revisions that we stated. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next I have some EMS issues here. First, we have a resignation letter, a letter of resignation from one of our EMTs, Andrea Briggs. So her original letter had said she was resigning as of her last shift, which was June 1st. But then she found out that it was actually May 27th. So I just like to make a motion to accept the resignation for Andrea Briggs as EMT with the Patterson EMS. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we lost one, but we're gaining one. We actually had myself and the EMS administrator, Denise Montana, interviewed a very impressive young man. His name is Crew Connolly. So I'd like to make a motion to hire Crew Connolly as an EMT at the rate of $15 per hour, provided that he clears all his checks and completes all his paperwork. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That is all I have.
Okay.
Charles?
Next we have sanitation department request for a cart tipper, truck 110. Previously, we approved a tipper in the amount of $10,000, $815. Let me just see something. Yeah. Okay, we approved one previously at a lower rate. Now the sanitation department's looking for a second one. The cost on that, I'm sorry for confusing it, is the $10,000 tipper. But now sanitation or Russ Goff is saying that if we purchase the grabber arm and the attachment kit, they can mount it themselves in highway or sanitation. They would just do the work on a couple of Saturdays. So what's before us is to approve a second cart tipper in the amount of $6,512, which I would say they're not saying where this money's going to come from. So I would
We have it,
believe
we have it in the budget.
highway or sanitation.
Sanitation.
Okay, great. So I will make a motion that the town board approve a second cart tipper for the sanitation department in an amount of $6,512. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to add, I just want to recommend, commend rather, Russ Goff. You know, it seems like he's always looking for ways to help us out with cutting costs on things by having his men use their talents and building stuff or, you know, doing stuff like this. I just want to commend him on that. I think that's great.
You're so right, Pete. So right. Okay. Next
All in
we.
favor?
Oh,
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have the town hall policies and procedures. And this revolves around a lot of the chatter we've had over the last couple of days and how we want to do our meetings along with town board, planning board and zoning board. So yeah, I'll start, and at any point I'm willing to be corrected. But I think that Zooming tonight's meeting is appropriate, and probably our second meeting in June, and maybe even beyond that, depending on the governor's edict on people of gathering 10 people or more. So I think we'll just have to play that almost meeting by meeting. The zoning board and the planning board, I think that they could meet at town hall. And I think that the reason for that would be they can limit the agenda. They can just take for their agenda the applicants and do business and keep things moving. With us, we really don't know who's going to show up, and it'd be pretty difficult, I think, to manage a group where it would exceed the 10 people, and who do we allow into the room, who we don't. So that's just my humble opinion. Meeting, again, just town board, take it meeting by meeting, and then what our colleagues on planning and zoning, I guess they could meet, unless there's something I'm missing in person, and just limit the agenda.
Is there any way that we can have them make appointments? So for example, if anyone has an issue with tonight's meeting and they want to, when we go live, make an appointment to come to the meeting to address us at the next meeting?
So again, the policy that I laid out is basically anybody that wants to come in needs to pre-register to come into the building.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
Now,
oh, go ahead, Charlie.
well, I was just going to say, how do we get that word? What happens if somebody, all luck would be somebody would, or a couple of people would show up who not necessarily come to the meetings or come to a particular meeting, and they haven't pre-registered, they don't realize that.
Can we have someone at the door? The door will be locked at a certain time before we begin, or make sure everyone that's pre-registered is there. And once that, that takes place, then we lock the door.
So we could certainly designate a sergeant of arms to monitor the people coming in the building, making sure, they're signing in. Everybody, again, the procedures I laid out, everybody is going to have to sign the same COVID attestation that they haven't been in contact with anybody before they can come upstairs. If they're not willing to do that, they're not coming in the building, period. And again, we pre-register everybody. So if they want to come to the meeting and address the board, we have.
Well, I think it would be smart to have the door locked, and like you're saying, someone there at the door, with it locked, or not at the door, or someone, once we begin, they should be there on time. Once we begin, we lock the door, because we're not, going to all be sitting up at the dais. And, what's to stop someone just from coming in and sitting right next to us, and we're, in the middle of a meeting, and we don't want to necessarily get up and just walk away from them,
It's easier to stop someone from coming in than it is to asking them to leave, right?
Right. Yes.
Understood.
Yeah, probably from a cop's perspective, right?
From anyone's perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, that's all doable. Sure.
My comment is the most critical part of this is ensuring that public hearings are available to the public, and the public has a reasonable ability to comment. So that's the part that is really important from where I sit. It's all important.
And
We clearly screening, and anyone who doesn't meet the basic requirements for admission, that's something that is in my opinion, and very enforceable. I'm a little bit concerned about a public hearing where there are a certain number of people in the main room, and then others, because of the number of attendees, have to be out in the hallway, and I think the policy should state that all rules regarding masks and social separation should apply to the hallway as well. But, and again, I'm sensitive to cost, but it's critical that the people that are in the hallway are able to hear the goings on before the board. And there's a mechanism whereby a person in the hall will be recognized to talk at the public hearing. I know I'm kind of talking basic things that, but that's the essence of what we need to make sure of, so that an applicant feels he's being treated fairly, he or she is being treated fairly, and members of the public have an opportunity to be heard. Because we run the risk that someone who's going to seek to block a project will have another procedural matter to raise before a court and drag on. So that's one thing I think of the policy in reading it in prep for tonight that I thought Rich might be, some way, maybe a PA or a wireless speaker out in the hall. That to me is important.
Well, if it's being streamed, is it being live streamed when we do our live meetings? We are now, right?
We are now.
Okay,
And,
but
and
we weren't before.
So for the town board meeting,
Mhm.
Paul can continue to live stream us, but Paul is not generally in attendance at the planning board and the ZBA meetings. So those meetings, if we continue on the same road, they would not be live streamed.
So let me just throw this out there without sounding completely ridiculous, but is there any way we could set up a temporary, like you go in the supermarket and now there's plexiglass in front of the cashier. So, and I'm not trying to create costs, but just create an environment where everyone feels safe. So is it possible that we have something that we can take either from the rec center that we're not using currently and put up maybe a, like a counter, a temporary counter with plexiglass in front of it, and them to be able to be there, see us and hear us, and yet we're behind that? Do we have anything, the ability to do something like that? But not a permanent structure.
So
obviously.
if I can get the plexiglass, and it's difficult to get plexiglass.
Mhm.
I can tell you, I've tried ordering plexiglass from some of the suppliers. They say they have plenty of it, and then it doesn't come here. We just today got a piece of plexiglass for the front desk that I've been trying to get now for weeks.
Yeah.
If I can get the plexiglass, yeah, it's possible for us to build a plexiglass wall between the public viewing area and the town board meeting area.
Mhm.
But, the distance between those two areas, 6 to 10 feet now, and is setting up a plastic, a plexiglass wall going to be that beneficial to us? And the reality is that those of us who are brave souls, we can sit down in front. Two of the people who are less brave maybe can sit up on the dais. And so now you're going to have 12 to 14 feet.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. It's not that I'm not a brave soul, but what I'm personally in fear of is my 84-year-old father, my pregnant daughter-in-law, my young grandchildren, personally myself. Some days I wish I would just get it and I can go and hide it and get it over with, because I don't really want to worry about it. But then I worry more about giving it to the more compromised people. That's really my.
I could, Mayor, I think the plexiglass would serve to protect the board and the rest of us who are up on the dais. But we have to be concerned about protecting the public from each other.
Yes.
So that's what this is kind of geared to. I just want to make sure I'm confident that this can be done in a way that meets the guidelines. for separation and masks and the like. Whether the guidelines are appropriate is another issue, but at least we could stick with we can meet the guidelines. I just want to make sure that there's a clear opportunity for interested people to be heard, and in a way, and again, this is somewhat uncharted, and it's governed by rules of reasonableness, and we have a lot of experience in this group before us. All we need to do should be done to ensure that no one can claim they've been frustrated.
Sure.
One,
Let's talk about the practical real quickly, though.
Yep.
You know, currently the town board has no plans that I'm aware of to have a public hearing on anything controversial. Likewise, the planning board has nothing in the hopper that is really controversial, and the ZBA only has one application that's controversial, which is going to draw a crowd, and we're not going to hear that for a little bit of time, probably maybe August, September. The applications that are left that we need to have public hearings on for the ZBA and the planning board are very uncontroversial, and at best they will draw 4 people, maybe 5 people, in addition to the applicant. So I'm confident that we can hold these public hearings. Everybody interested in that application can be in the room. People on subsequent applications, because, you know, Mary, I sent you the schedule. The reason that we're kind of, you know, there's more planning board meetings or zoning board meetings is we're trying to double up so we don't have a lot of applicants coming into the building. So, you know, if we have 3 applicants and 2 of the applicants with their consultants are sitting sequestered in the hall, socially distanced from each other, they're not going to be complaining about not attending the public hearing.
And I think that also maybe we could have like, I don't want to say, you know, not your sergeant at arms, maybe it's not an escort, but maybe like a chaperone there, you know, so that if they can, I'm sure they can hear it. We could definitely put a speaker out there for them to hear it and say, you know, if anybody would like to come in, let me know, and, you know, to address the board.
Right.
To, you know, like a movie theater.
and the chair people of the boards can introduce the meeting by saying, you know, we are seeking to permit those interested on a particular matter to be able to kind of have first shot at being in the main hall, and maybe that could be, there could be a little bit of flux between who's in. So the first applicant can come in. If there's 2 or 3 people interested, they would have preference to come in. And then when that item's finished, those people can leave, and new people for the next matter can come in. As long as there's nothing that, for practical reasons, as Rich said, as long as there are no controversial matters, there should not be too much grumbling about that either. So that, I mean, maybe that's what has been envisioned, Rich. I don't know. I just
Yes.
hate somebody, you know, drag us along somewhere, you know, just based on a technicality. So,
Well, listen, if we get into a situation where we, you know, we have a lot of people show up for a public hearing, you know, we can handle that in a couple of different ways. One is we could postpone the public hearing right then and there and maybe move it to the rec center.
right. Another option is if something comes up that's in the nature of a surprise, then the boards should be quick to be able, which I'm sure they would be, but quick to say, you know, this is new evidence before us. We're going to adjourn the meeting. We're going to hold the public hearing open. And that way there could be an ability to prepare for the next meeting, knowing that there's controversy that we didn't know of before. So, okay, just.
So if we have, if they're pre-registering and we see that we have more than X, whatever we determine amount of people attend the meeting, then we just move it to the rec center. Right?
We adjust accordingly. Maybe it's moving it to the rec center. Maybe it's rescheduling it to its own separate meeting.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a couple different ways we can go.
All of which I think is something that is handling it in a practical way, dealing with the issues as they arise, doing what's reasonable under the circumstances is
Yep.
all a court would look at if ultimately push came to shove on it.
Let me ask, how do we want to handle our next town board meeting? Want Zoom for the next one and
Very good.
play it by ear after that?
So I've been waiting for a moment to jump in. I was at town hall today signing vouchers, and I saw the way the room had been staged for the plan that Rich had rolled out. And there was plenty of room in there. It looked like for about, what was it, Rich, maybe 8 members of the public,
Yeah.
somewhere in that neighborhood, and
Yes.
more than enough room for social distancing. And we have to be honest, most times we don't get 8 people at town board meetings. And, you know, especially lately, people aren't as interested in coming out into the community for a town board meeting as maybe they once were. So I think, you know, I'm certainly fine with trying to, the next meeting, give it a go and, you know, put into place these measures. I think that, you know, there's nothing preventing, not only we're asking the public to wear face coverings, nothing preventing the board from wearing face coverings and seeing, I think the microphones will pick up. You could always take the mask off while it's your turn on the agenda, because you know you're going to be doing most of the speaking. But I do meetings every day in the office and I'm wearing masks and it works fine. And, you know, again, I know I said this in an email, but it has become our new norm that we wear masks when we know we're going to be in a meeting where social distancing can't occur. And it's just the new normal. People get used to it. It's not that big of a deal. I think the health forms that, Rich, that you came up with, the idea of having people sign some attestation that they, you know, that is a precursor or pre-screening to coming into town hall for those meetings is a great idea. You know, it's a step in the right direction. So I'm certainly supportive of trying to meet in person 2 weeks from now. You know.
I have no
I
problem.
guess- Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm
Oh,
done.
yes.
Go, Pete.
Yeah, so I think it's still a good idea though to have somebody, I don't know who it would be, maybe Bob or someone from the building department, Vinny, or someone just, you know, yeah, you know, we probably are going to have 4 or 5 people in the audience and they will fill up those chairs, but just to make sure. So you never know. I mean, we just have to be prepared for some, you know, prepared for the worst. So if for some reason a group decides to show up or something, just somebody to make sure, you know, just someone to greet them while they come in and make sure that they don't move the chairs, you know, that they sit distantly, you know, because you know how people like to move the chairs to the back of the room and sit in the back of the room, you know, just to make sure they don't do that. You know, just to make sure everyone's following the guidelines, unless you want to unless we do it, you know, but it'd be nice to have someone that can kind of greet people as they come in and just make sure they're following the guidelines.
Would you be comfortable with Sue doing that?
I would.
If she
As long as Sue's comfortable doing it, sure.
Yeah.
He's our safety officer, right? Our safety chairman.
Yep.
So no mask, no admittance.
Right.
And,
They have to have a mask to get in.
No form, no admittance.
No exception.
Do we agree that the doors should be locked at a certain time, because we could be upstairs and she could be downstairs and combating someone and we wouldn't know anything about it? You know, we wouldn't want to put her in that position.
Yeah, I'm thinking about your point. Your point is valid.
Yep.
Now she's at the door and someone's resisting, you know, I don't need a mask, blah, 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 you know, and we're already in, you know, I think there has to be a cutoff time where the door is locked and no one comes in, and it should definitely be, you know, whether we could advertise this, I think, you know, or not, but it should be, you know, 10 to 7 or 5 to 7, you know, because we start at 7 and she should be with us and we know she's safe and we know no one can get in the building.
So
And
I'm
I think that we also-
starting to drift towards your point about just keeping the door locked. And
Right.
she will let people in as they approach if they're registered.
Right. And then we let them know you know, that they have to come on, they have to be on time or they're not getting in. You know, and we have to advise the public that's there when we begin that we ask them that if they're leaving while the meeting is going, that they not let anyone that's outside the door into the building when they leave. You know, these are things that, you know, we practice in, you know, on my everyday employment, because we have, you know, we're always on like a lockdown, so.
Mhm.
Now,
All right. Fair enough.
now,
Are we okay?
If the rule is that only people that are registered can come into the meeting, then that's workable. And then that's the rule.
Correct.
If we didn't have the pre-registration, then I would start getting a little concerned that really there should be someone at the door to let people in if it was a meeting open to the public. But if the rules are that they need to pre-register, need to fill out a form, these are the criteria that permit attendance. And again, we're always branching out on new territory here, but it seems like a pretty reasonable way of doing things. And so I'd be okay with that.
Eileen, are you okay with all this?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Pete, you're okay?
Good.
Larry?
Yeah.
Charlie?
Mary, yes, I'm good with that.
Charlie?
Yes.
All right. Sean? So
Absolutely.
next meeting, we're going to do it at Town Hall?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm gonna post the rules. What do you have
Yeah.
for disseminating it and
Yep.
getting it out there? Okay.
Time for the grievance notice to come down anyway on the website. So now, is everybody okay with meeting without me installing plexiglass in the meeting room if I can't get it?
Yeah, Rich, we were just told in one of the calls, I think you might have been on it with the town supervisors, when John O'Connor, our safety officer, everybody wants plexiglass right now, and obviously there's a shortage, and he talked about a lot of price gouging going on, and if you can even get it. But you know, what used to be available for $100 now costs $1,000, and like you said, you can't get it. So it also provides, unfortunately, a false sense of security. You know, people need to wear masks if they are in a situation where they're concerned, and if social distancing can't be met, but I think we can meet it.
Well, I think also that we should take chairs away and, you know.
They're already gone.
That you know, okay, so if the room's set up, put a line, you know, move the microphone back.
Yep. It's all set up.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna be up there early tomorrow morning, so
Yeah, take a look.
I'll take a look at it too.
If you remember, I set it all up and took some photos and sent them out.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes, I did see those photos.
Good.
Yeah,
It's good to see it in person.
And then we'll have, I guess you and Charlie up on the dais, and then the three of us spread out in front. Is that was the plan, or?
Listen, I'm open any way you guys want to do it, but I was kind of thinking I was going to be closest to the audience.
I don't care where I sit.
I'm not, I was thinking about at-risk population, so I'm not going to go there. You sit wherever you want,
Mhm.
you know.
I think publishing the policy and alerting the sheriff's department to the policy
Yeah.
should be done, just in case,
Listen, I could send a note over to the sheriff, certainly.
to let them know of it in case some crazy shows up and we need to, not a crazy, but someone who's vociferous and not willing
Remember, this is
Good recovery.
to abide by the rule.
Well, I don't know if any of you have noticed.
As much notice as possible on all fronts. Maybe the same way we publish a notice of a public hearing. Rich, you know what to
Yep.
do.
There's been a lot more people going out now, so.
Are you saying, Mary, they're so anxious to do anything out of their houses that they're even going to come to a town board meeting?
just saying that they're everywhere now. You know, last week I had to go to the hospital for a doctor's appointment, and there was nobody on the road. And today I had to go over to the Green Glass for something, and there was a lot of people out. That's all I'm saying. And the governor's supposed to make a decision on summer school on Friday. So we'll see how that goes.
Really?
On in-person summer school. So
That's not going to happen.
yeah.
All right, I'm done. Sean?
All righty. This is an easy one compared to the last conversation. So obviously we talk about it at budget time and upgrading our computers. Rich had received a quote for upgrading 5 computers at the rec center through Dell. The quote basically is a little under $1,000 per computer system. So Rich, I know it says no shipping, but are you confident there's not going to be additional costs, or do you want a round number on this?
I'm fairly comfortable that this is a solid number. It's a
Okay.
little bit more than we anticipated, but in talking with the rec center, we threw in some software that we hadn't anticipated that they use.
Okay.
I got a very good deal from Dell on the software, so
Great.
opted to go with that.
So the quote through Dell is for 5 Optiplex computer systems with the software packages and other related paraphernalia. And the unit price is $992.90 per unit. So for a total of $4,964.50, I'll move that we approve this request as submitted. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. The next item is we have some, I guess it's good news and bad news. It's good news for Rick Saracelli, bad news for us. We all knew that Rick Saracelli was looking to make a move in his retirement and a change. He has submitted a letter of resignation. He says that he has been anticipating a move from Patterson to happen in July. He finds it necessary to submit the letter of resignation for the position of caretaker of the environmental park. He's asking it to be effective July 1st. He'd like to thank everyone for allowing him the opportunity over the past so many years to participate in the development of the environmental park space. And he notes that it's a lovely asset for the town. He says it's given him a great sense of satisfaction having been able to participate in the many projects. Obviously, we all know the contributions that Rick Saracelli has given to the town. It's been more than a park caretaker position. He truly loves what he does for the town. I think it shows with the passion that he brings to it. And I think he's a hard person to replace. So I guess, first of all, I know we don't have to do it, but I'll do it anyway by motion that we accept Rick's letter of resignation to take effect as of July 1st, 2020. So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. And like I said, I'm sure I join everyone on the town board and our community in thanking Rick. This is difficult times. We're not able to do things the way we might normally like to do them, but you know, we don't have enough words to thank Rick for the effort that he has done over the years to make the environmental park accessible to so many people and keeping it clean and litter free. I've heard that over the last couple of months, the park usage has gone through the roof during this COVID crisis. And Rich, I think you even mentioned that you've seen, without mentioning the source, that you've seen an uptick in the.
I personally have seen
a
substantial increase in the number of people going down there.
And so clearly it's getting a lot of use. And I had heard that there were some issues with littering. You would never know it when you're down there because Rick takes care of the place so well and is really just always on site. He's there all the time and he cares deeply about the community and specifically that park. So again, I don't have enough words to thank Rick for all of his years of service, but I'm sure that I share in everybody's feelings on this. With that,
Well said.
thank you, Charles. With that, he also, within his letter, recommends Ed Naperkowski to the position to follow in his footsteps. Now, Ed Naperkowski is someone who has been volunteering to assist Rick over the last few years, getting more involved with helping Rick to maintain cutting grass and doing things over at the park. And I had it in front of me. There it is. I lost it for a second. Ed actually submitted a letter to the town board saying that he's interested to apply for the position of the Patterson Environmental Park caretaker. He knows that Rick will be leaving, and you know, he has proven himself by volunteering for the position to assist over the last so many years. So I had the opportunity to work with Ed on a couple of small occasions with the boardwalk project, with taking care of some issues that needed to be resolved due to some mischief that we've had down at the park. And Ed has been very available and shows that he also cares about following in Rick's footsteps. So I don't know if anybody else has had a chance to meet Ed or has anything they'd like to say.
I've met Ed, and Ed's a wonderful man and a great choice for this position.
So then,
I want to inject real quick. When we do this, the correct
Yeah.
title, park maintenance worker.
is it park maintenance worker?
Yeah, that's
Really? Okay.
You know, civil
Park
service.
maintenance. Boy, that doesn't sound as nice as environmental park caretaker, but park maintenance worker. So I'll make a motion that we appoint Ed Naperkowski of 1142 Route 311 in Patterson to fill the remainder of this year's term for the position that Rick Saracelli is vacating July 1st. So from July 1st through December 31st, 2020, for the position of park maintenance worker, more affectionately known as our Patterson Environmental Park caretaker to all of us. So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Before I'm sorry,
To change the name.
before we move on, since we're on the park, you know, I use that quite often, and you know, it is really crowded on the weekends, and maybe we could look into putting a garbage pail. Well, two things: maybe putting a garbage pail down by the launch, the canoe launch, and then maybe even putting, like they have around in the Putt Lake Park District, where we have the doggy bags, because there are a lot of complaints, and I'll see it all the time. If you walk down the Marble Quarry Road, you'll see a lot of dog crap all over the place. People like to walk their dogs down there now. Perhaps maybe if we got, you know, one of those, like in the Park District with the garbage can with the doggy bag dispenser attached to it, might be a good idea.
We could do that, Pete, but I just want to mention that right now the policy is you bring it in, you carry it out. You know, if we put the garbage can down there, we're going to have to make arrangements to have it picked up. So,
You know, the only thing I worry about with that over there, because I agree, Pete, it's a great idea, and I always like the idea of promoting carry in, carry out, even with the dog poop. You know, people should carry bags and they should take it home with them and throw it in the trash. Boy, have I been noticing, especially at my house specifically, we are seeing bears every single day. And with garbage cans, I would worry that if they're not emptied at least several times a week, we're just going to have garbage. You know, people that would normally take it with them might say, well, there's the can, and use it, and we might end up with an issue. I'm not opposed to it, but I think it'll be interesting, because over at that park, I'm sure we have bears that are routinely roaming that area.
hey, speaking of bears, I'm coming to
Yeah.
work this morning on Couch Road,
Yeah.
and I chased a bear out of tearing somebody's garbage up.
See that? I will tell you that we are seeing them not every day, but almost every day. We are now seeing them at our house. So it's that common that we're seeing them. And the problem is they have very little fear of people, and that's starting to worry me.
So I have the Ring doorbell, and I'm signed up for the neighborhood alerts, and they're all within 2 to 4 miles of my home. Every morning I get an alert. Someone got the bear on their doorbell
Yeah.
camera.
So do you
I don't know if it's the same one, but it's very large.
Do you think if we put one up by the entrance, like right by the railroad tracks where where the sign and everything is, and then if this new caretaker could empty the garbage frequently, if we had the doggy bag things there, at least the doggy bag things, and then, people can at least clean up after themselves, and then, so this way you can you're bringing your garbage out technically and putting it, because I know a lot of people, I put it in the, we save it and then we go by the rec center, because I'm not going to walk home with a bag of poop.
Yeah.
So by the rec center, I'll throw in that garbage. Just
Well,
right across.
Pete, the good thing about that is if it's just filled with dog poop, the bears are hopefully less likely to be, in there.
So,
Yeah.
would you be amenable to putting up a doggy bag dispenser with a sign, please place your dog and take it home with you?
It would be nice to have something to dispose it in.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about asking Ed to go pick up dog poop.
Ed, welcome to the team. Now go collect poop, right?
We'll have to change his
report
title
back.
then too, right?
We may want to wait till he accepts the position before we let him know about that. But
We'll just let him know it's a
Pete,
crappy job.
yeah. So it's interesting. I will be seeing Rick Saracelli on, I think it's Sunday. We're going to be starting phase 2 of the boardwalk project. I'll be working with him. Why don't we, if you don't mind, why don't we table this till next meeting, and I'll really feel him out, because he's living and breathing it. He's down there 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And the uptick in garbage was, let's face it, the park has never seen as much of a concentration of people as it has during this COVID pandemic. And if he says, you know what, I've always wanted a garbage can down there and we think we could figure it out, maybe we can come back and resolve it that way. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah, I totally trust his judgment, and I was just putting it out there for tonight, so I wasn't looking for. Well, yeah, I totally would trust his judgment, and if he would think it was a good idea, or if it wasn't, I would take it.
Sean, could you also reach out to Ed, get his opinion? Frank Grady.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, who empties I guess the rec staff empties the rec centers of garbage, right? Out front there.
Well, they put it in the dumpster, but then, sanitation comes and picks it up.
Yeah.
The garbage cans in front of the rec center, right outside of the front there. Is that the cleaning people, or is that the rec center staff?
Usually it's the staff that takes it over and puts it in the dumpster.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about outdoor seating for restaurants. As everybody is aware, recently the governor allowed phase 2 to commence in Putnam County. Along with that came a provision that would allow restaurants to open outdoor seating if approved by the municipality. I initially put this on the agenda because I had drafted a policy for the town board to adopt on how we would do that, and then started having conversations with Don about what we could not do. It was the opinion of the attorneys, and Don, jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, that really this is not something the town board could do, but that I had the ability to do it by executive order. In recognition of the serious need to get our businesses and our restaurants open as quickly as possible, and earning income again, because they've been closed down for so long. I took the unusual step of adopting an executive order. I provided that to the board, which sets up a procedure for review of applications from our restaurants to allow for outdoor seating. With that, I'll open it to discussion.
If I could, I'd just like to jump in. There are other methods by which it could be done, but it would take a number of months before those could be implemented. For example, amending the zoning code to drastically change procedures in order to allow this on an expedited basis. So this was, to me, clearly the most expeditious way. of doing it and addressing the problem and doing it in a way that is consistent with public safety, and while certainly hoping it will promote business for the restaurateurs. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I think we need to get these, we need to help these businesses out as best we can. You know, we need to get them open and, you know, takeout just only goes so far for some of these businesses. So it'd be great if they can increase their business a little bit more, get some more income, more business. I think it's good.
One of the
And
things,
also, when we enter phase 3 and we get to the indoor seating, which we're told now will allow 50% indoor, it still allows them to keep this as long as they don't go over capacity or create any issues for maybe their septic system. So I think it's a step in the right direction. I think we had no other choice but to take an action. Also recognize this is a temporary thing. We're not talking about allowing outdoor seating where it wasn't previously approved, where site plan didn't occur. The building inspector and Rich have been making sure that when it's proposed, they're maintaining life safety issues, you know, things like that, because you don't just want to approve and say, let people do whatever they want, because it could create some issues with safety. So Rich, I applaud you for doing it. And I'm fully behind you. I think I speak for everyone else, but this is great.
I
So,
agree. And Sean, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned
Sure.
about phase 3.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea when that kicks in?
Yeah, 2 weeks from this past Tuesday, which I believe is the 23rd. I don't have a calendar in front of me. So phase 3 for us, Mid-Hudson region, should be Tuesday, June 23rd, I believe. And that's when restaurants can then allow indoor dining with social distancing up to 50% capacity. In some cases, we have many restaurants that won't be able to reach that 50% capacity. They just don't have the floor plan or the logistical layout to allow 6 foot of distancing between tables, between aisleways where the servers have to walk. So it's not, it sounds easy to say, oh, it's 50% capacity. It's not quite that simple, but we're hoping to allow them to, like, as Rich said, we need these people back in business.
Absolutely.
And I know Pete just said as well, these people are really struggling. I've had a number of restaurants that have told me they're not reopening. None I can think of in Patterson though, so that's good. But countywide, we are hurting and we need to get these businesses back open.
no restaurants that I'm aware of, but I believe we did lose a hair salon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Charlie, there's 2 weeks between each of the phases. There's 4 phases.
Right. Okay, thank you.
I'd also like to point out that that as maybe further Sean's comments, that this is the town relaxing the basically the site plan approval process. It doesn't grant any dispensation from any other outside agency's rules. But the one that we did focus on was the State Liquor Authority that adopted guidance for a very simplified process, and that is to notify them where the outside seating would be. So it's not it's a much abbreviated process that typically you would have to go through to get additional seating area authorized under a liquor permit. But it's a very simple notice to the SLA regarding it. But every restaurant owner should, make certain that they are complying with all outside agency rules in connection with this.
Yeah, I believe many of the building inspectors I've spoken with intended to put some language on any approval that they issued that said just that, Don, that said it must still comply with any and all ordinances or other involved agencies. So health department, state liquor authority, and also comply with all of the guidelines of the governor's executive orders for social distancing and those sorts of things. So, the the number of things, restrictions that need to be complied with is not a short list. It's something that people need to slow down when they're opening these businesses. Take the time to read the guidance and really evaluate how they're going to implement these. I've talked to a few restaurants that said they just weren't even going to give it a go. They were just going to hold out the 2 more weeks because some restaurants don't have the property. Remember also that these restaurants need the approval of the property owner. So it's not as simple as them just saying, well, I'm going to put outdoor seating and meet the rules of the town. They have to have approval from the property owner as well. And in some cases, that could be hard to come by because it's an additional liability.
It is, but I'm hopeful and confident that the benefits to be gained by the restaurants will flow also to the owners, because anything that can be done to promote income that could be used to pay rent and other carrying expenses is in the landlord's best interest too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, next item I want to discuss with the board is a motion that I made several months ago to have our utility bills reviewed by TRI Utility. During the meeting, I had made the motion and threw in there that we were just going to give TRI 2 bills to see how they did. Subsequently to that, Councilman D'Andriano and myself met with TRI Utility, and we're convinced that it might be in the town's best interest to let them look at all the utility bills. However, I've been unable to convince our Department of Finance to send them the utility bills because of the original motion. So I'd like to rescind the original motion and make a motion that the supervisor be allowed to enter into an agreement with ST Network for review of the utility bills to see if there might be a savings for all electric utility bills. So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pete, I hope this gets it going.
There's no cost for that, right?
Excuse me?
And there's no cost for that. It's
There is no
just-
cost to the town. No.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, Mary.
Okay, the first item on my agenda are is a recommendation coming from our head lifeguard, Cassidy Speller. She'd like to hire 2 additional new lifeguards. The first one is Alex Bertone. Alex currently holds his lifeguard waterfront CPR certifications and has 2 years of lifeguarding experience. His experience includes 1 summer working at Putnam Lake in 2018 and a year-round guard at Green Chimneys. Alex will, of course, not be fully working until we've done a complete background check and he's completed his employment packet. So I'll make a recommendation that Alex start, because of his 2 years of experience, at the rate of $10.75 per hour. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The other lifeguard that Cassidy is recommending we hire is Stevie Lynn Delanoy. Stevie Lynn also currently holds a lifeguard waterfront CPR certifications, and she would be joining us with 3 years of lifeguarding experience. So I'd like to make a motion to approve Stevie Lynn Delanoy at the hourly rate of $11 an hour, provided all background checks are cleared, along with her returning her employment packet completely filled out. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the other item on my agenda is the e-zpass. And to the credit of our town clerk, we now have the ability to offer the community the ability to purchase e-zpass tags at the price of $25 per tag, and with $4 of that fee going to the town for the processing of the purchase of the tag. I did have one question. Would you be able to come from another town to purchase them in our town hall, or is this only being, so you can come from all over? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion to,
Mary, before you
Yeah.
do that, I have a question for Don. Don, I know that Jamie prepared this resolution. Have you had a chance to take a look at it?
I did.
Okay, so my question to you is this. We tried reaching out to Jamie. We didn't get an answer. This is a program that's going to be run out of the town clerk's office by the town clerk, who's an elected official.
Right.
All right. Is the application something that is getting submitted by the supervisor, or should it be submitted and signed off on by the town clerk? I'm concerned that if the supervisor's office sends the application in, they will assume that the program's going to be run out of the supervisor's office.
Right. The program, meaning the actual application process. I don't, it should be, I believe it should be run through the town clerk's office.
Okay, so then
Not
we
through the.
want to authorize me to submit the application. We want to authorize the town clerk to submit the application.
Are you telling me that?
No, no,
No, I'm asking Don.
On that, okay. So,
I don't. I think the town clerk can act on behalf of the town in making the application. So that's the way it should be.
Okay. So in that case, we want to change town supervisor to town clerk
Yes.
in the resolution.
Yes.
okay.
Glad we're giving Eileen more tasks while she's not showing up on the Zoom.
Yeah. We lost her, I think.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of organizations, if you don't show up, you get elected president. So
Well, she initiated this, so she asked for it.
I don't think there's any problem with the town clerk acting as the duly designated officer of the town to do it. Eileen, we're
Lost you guys.
just when you were the topic of conversation.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden Mary froze and my whole computer just shut down. Okay, so where are we?
Well, we were crediting you.
Oh, thank you. That's nice.
The e-zpass application process, we're going to provide, you would submit the appropriate
Yeah.
paperwork to the Thruway Authority. Mr.
Yes,
On that.
yes, they require that I sign it because it's going to be sold out of the clerk's office.
Yes.
Yes. And I did call Jamie, but I think it was a little too late for her to get back to
She was getting her 20 miles in by that time.
So,
Good for her.
so I'm gonna make a motion to approve the resolution for acceptance of the e-zpass on-the-go retail sales agreement with a correction to the town of Patterson hereby authorizes and directs the town clerk to complete and submit the e-zpass on-the-go retail sales program application to the New York State Thruway. And enter this into the record as though read with said correction. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Eileen, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's great.
Good.
Now, can we pay with credit card?
Not yet. Not yet. We're working on it. We're working on it.
We're almost there.
Yeah, we're almost there.
Okay, does any other town board member have any other business they wish to bring up at this time?
I have one thing for Sean.
Sure.
Sean, with you working for the Department of Health and those bears patrolling your property,
Mm-hmm.
what, are they wearing face masks?
They're practicing social
I'm
distancing.
sure he's staying away from them. Can I?
I could answer that a lot of different ways. I'm just gonna smile and.
Good boy.
Smile and bear with it.
No one.
I wanted to leave this meeting on a little jovially.
Right.
I just want to add a personal touch to say congratulations to the class of 2020, all of those students out there that have this, big moment in their life and they're missing out on all of the celebrations. And I just want to tell them that, you know, we're proud of them and bear through it. And they'll
Bear
have
through
a lot of good, and they'll have a lot of good stories to tell at their 10-year reunion.
Here,
So
here.
congratulations, class of 2020.
Yes, hopefully we'll all not be social distancing in 10 years.
Yeah.
So I have one last thing to add as well. I forgot to do this at the last meeting, and I'd rather do it now rather than not do it at all, and that's to wish Mr. D'Andriano a happy birthday.
Hey, happy birthday.
Thank
All
you,
the
thank
best,
you.
Pete. All
Thank
the
you very
best.
much.
Happy birthday.
Happy 30th.
Plus 20.
Is it? Plus 20, are you being, is it
5-0.
5-0?
That's a big number.
Wow.
Wow.
I
Happy birthday.
celebrated it hiking up to a mountain in Lake George, the top of a mountain, 4
Good.
miles up.
The important thing is you made it back alive, so you're good.
Barely.
Oh,
There, there.
you guys are killing me.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to
moved.
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good seeing you all. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
I'll
Yeah.
Out of the
see you
dirt
all
sheet.
tomorrow.
Good
I-
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Good night.